Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside Louisville, Kentucky, and in Maryland, the land of pleasant living, home of the lacrosse champion Maryland Terrapins. John Webster, Big John, how are you doing?
Hey, Gary, man, I'm doing great. Another great week in sports. You mentioned also about those Terps. They brought a title home to College Park. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But it's exciting times with NBA basketball. And before we get started, Gary, we would be remiss if we didn't say hey to the traffic cop, to the producer, to the director, Mr. John Pitt.
Hey, John, I'm glad to see you made it in the house, man. Gary, we got a flash flood warning down here till 10, so.
Oh, my goodness. So, man, what kind of rain are y'all getting up there? Well, I guess flash flood type rain.
They could probably build another ark right now, Gary.
Well, it's funny you're talking about rain and arcs and everything else because we're going to be talking a lot about the Splash Brothers, excuse my mumbling and stumbling on this. The Splash Brothers with this NBA Finals. John, let's just get right into it. We have a potential, I think, for an epic finals, between two storied franchises. I mean, you can say whatever about the Warriors and all of those years between 1975 and 2015, but that's all. What is it? Past is prologue. They are the dominant team in basketball right now, in my opinion. And but of course, they're facing the Boston Celtics, perhaps the most storied franchise next to the Lakers in the NBA. I'd say on paper, this seems to favor the Golden State Warriors just because of the Splash Brothers, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, but they've got plenty more weapons. Boston plays great defense. They can put it up too, but again, without home court advantage, this I think right now still belongs to the Warriors. But I've laid out some of my reasons for why I think the Dubs will probably win it in 7. But I want to hear your analysis of this and just what you think.
Well, first and foremost, we agree it's going to go 7 games. This is a very evenly matched series. I really like the Golden State Warriors. My favorite team is the Boston Celtics. So this is going to be very interesting. Boston this year has the number 1 defense in the NBA. They had the Defensive Player of the Year in Marcus Smart. And they have quite a duo in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Quite a 1-2 punch. With that being said, you got the Golden State Warriors, all defensive player Draymond Green and a former Defensive Player of the Year in Draymond Green. You have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, who is still trying to find his way back after having some very serious leg injuries. He's been playing well in moments, so we'll see how this goes in this series. Jordan Poole is a wild card in this, I think. They said he's the third wheel, but he's going to have to step up and hit some shots. I tell you, a player who really on Golden State, who I really think is an unsung hero, who's going to have to play some absolute great defense again, is Andrew Wiggins. They're going to need him to come out, and off and on, he's going to be on Tatum or he'll be on Brown, and he's going to have to do his defense like he always does. He has a wingspan, Gary, when he's with his arms about 7 feet. I think he's like 6'8", 6'9". So they're going to need him to do a good job. Also, Boston has an aircraft carrier. They have Robert Williams in the middle. That makes a difference because that can change what your thoughts are when it comes to driving the lane, taking shots in there. So we're going to see. It's going to be interesting. Get your popcorn early, get your hot dog early, and be seated. Tonight is the first night, and we're going to see what's going to happen, man. It's going to be an exciting series. I think People say Boston is young. Boston hasn't been there. But I say this, there always has to be a first time for everything, Gary. Everything in your life you've done once, you had to be a first time for everything you've done. So, okay, it's the first time. We'll see how it works out. Is the NBA Finals a different type of animal? Yes, it is. But we'll see how these kids do. On the other side, you say Golden State. They're going to play against the number 1 ranked defense in the NBA, a tough one. Well, that's true. But then where do you sway your defense to? Do you stop Curry and leave Poole to do damage? Do you stop Thompson? And then do you sway your defense and leave Wiggins open? Any of those people I just named, those 4 people can all go for 20 points at any given time or any given night. And Draymond Green, he's a straw that stirs the drink, Mm-hmm. He's not going to get a lot of points, but he's going to do a lot of things you don't notice. He's going to make the right pass. He's going to make the right defensive play. He's going to steal the ball. He's going to bring the ball up court. He's going to make the right pick at the right time to free Thompson or Curry up for a jumper. It's going to be an interesting series. It's going to be a chess match, Gary. It's going to be a chess match with I'm going to try to say this guy's name right. Udoka. Am I close? Am I close, Gary?
Yeah, you're about as close as I'm probably going to get to.
So we're going to see how that works out, and we're going to see with Steve Kerr. It's going to be a chess match, man. It's going 7 games. It's going 7 games. And if you and Pitt have noticed, I'm saying 7 games, but I still have not picked who is going to win this series yet. I still haven't said it because I see it's evenly matched. I mean, there's things Golden State led the league in turnovers this year. So they're going to turn the ball over. It's going to happen. But will Boston be able to create and take advantage and convert on those turnovers? Also, I saw Boston went to sleep at the wheel the other night. Last 3 minutes against Miami. They had a 13-point lead. Mm-hmm. What happens? Will that happen again? What happens if Jason Tatum starts driving to the basket, doing a lot of one-on-one, starts looking for threes? What happens? What happens if he doesn't have the ball and Marcus Smart decides he wants to start shooting threes? A lot of questions, Gary. A lot of things have to be answered. A lot of things. Golden State side, is Gary Payton coming back? Is Otto Porter coming back? Is Iguodala coming back? If all 3 of those guys come back, or 2 of those 3, it definitely helps Golden State because those are more people that you can throw at Tatum and Brown on the defensive side.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, John, defensively, Boston has to do. I mean, okay, Steph and Clay, they're going to get their points. They're going to get their baskets, or to break it down even more, they're going to get their looks. The thing you have to do is slow them down. You have to disrupt them because, we've seen the Warriors prone to turnovers, even when things are going good because of the pace that they play at. If Boston can turn that defense, can really, clamp down, slow them down, really limit the opportunities that both of them get, while also alluding to all those other players that you mentioned, but particularly Jordan Poole, just keep them from going to, or what's the word I'm trying to say? Just limit their options, really slow them down and limit their options. You figure you're going to get beat by Steph and Clay at some point, but don't let Jordan Poole beat you. Don't let Draymond Green beat you inside because you fell asleep at the wheel on defense. That's one thing I think Golden State can really hurt you with. It's like, you're so geared up to shutting down that perimeter game, you forget guys inside like Draymond Green who are there to play cleanup and then laugh all the way down the court. I think if they can do that, they've got a chance. John, I'm going to say this now. The one thing the Celtics can't do, and you know what it is, do not try to match pace with the Warriors from 3-point range. Do not make that your default shot. Work the ball inside. How many times have we said 2-pointers, you can rack up a lot of points shooting 2-pointers. That's what they have to do to just stay in the game, maybe control the game, use the three-pointer only when you have to, or if Tatum is really, really hot, you keep feeding him until they can shut him down. But if you're Golden State, use every strength that has gotten you this far, has gotten you back to the finals, and make Boston shut it down.
Well, you great points, Gary. All great points. Now, the thing with Boston, it's wishful thinking for you and me both that they're not going to shoot a lot of threes. They're going to do it. Tatum's going to drive to the basket and have a chance of getting a two-pointer or getting fouled. He's going to pass it back out to the wing for a three-point shot. It's going to happen. The other thing Boston has to be paying attention to, you mentioned the pace, which is true, but another thing they have to be paying attention to is on the defensive end. Mm-hmm. Steph Curry runs you through a lot of picks. You have to be a very good communicator. Somebody has to be the quarterback on your defense, namely Smart, and he does. And you got to be calling picks out, and you got to know where Steph Curry is at all times. Because Steph Curry sometimes will run you around as a decoy just to have open Poole and Thompson. So you got to be ready for that. The other thing you and I have also talked about with Golden State. Yes, the Splash Brothers are the most lethal duo of shooting three-pointers probably in the history of the NBA. But those two guys know how to go to the rack or know how to work the elbow by the foul line and get 2 pointers. They do it well. Go back to the last series, game 2 against the Dallas Mavericks. They were down 19 or 21 in the third quarter. They walked them back down mainly off 2-point shots, Another thing that Golden State has to watch, though, Jordan Poole will get, what I say, into himself. He'll put on a dribbling show. He'll be in the same place for 55 minutes and won't be going anywhere. That does not help anything. He will have times in the game, Gary, where he will just dribble. He will dribble into a trap, or he will dribble and throw the ball away. It's going to happen. But you have to limit how many times that happens and make sure Poole is able to get in the flow without getting into a dribbling spell. Because I think at some points, Poole has come a long way. He does a great job. He's one of the most improved players in the league. But I think sometimes his handle of the basketball, he wants to be similar to Steph Curry. There's only one Steph Curry. There's only one that can handle the basketball like that, so he has to be careful. Now, going back on Boston's side, I'll give you another unsung hero on their team. Aaron Williams, coming off the bench, holding down that lane. He's going to play an important role, a very important role. He has to stay out of foul trouble, though. He has a tendency to get in foul trouble. Stay out of foul trouble. He's going to probably have some minutes on Draymond Green, but he's also going to have some minutes on Wiggins and Klay Thompson. That's my thought. He's very important when he comes off that bench. Also, Boston's going to bring Pritchard in the game. Pritchard's going to switch the pace of the game. He's a little bit different of a point guard than Smart is. Marcus Smart is I've said it to you many times, Gary and John. He's a traditional Celtic. He's a throwback Celtic to the old days. Goes back to like when I remember when they had Danny Ainge and Dennis Johnson at the point guard. Neither one of them were really a point guard. They were guards. And that's where I see Marcus Smart. He's not a shooting guard. He's really not a point guard, but he is a guard. And he's a doggone good guard and a doggone good player. And, Curry's going to have to figure out some ways to get his shot off. They're going to have to run a lot of picks to get Smart off of him. And also, Golden State is going to have to match the physicality that Boston is going to bring out tonight and each and every game. This isn't going to be a game like Dallas Mavericks where you're just going to run up and down the court and it's going to be beautiful and we're going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya. No, there's going to be some moments where some people are going to put some bodies on other people. Some people are going to end up on the ground, not intentionally, not trying to hurt anybody, but it is going to be a physical series. And if Golden State cannot match that physicality, that'll be a problem. Also on Boston's side, if Boston continues to shoot threes when they're not making them, if Boston does not accept the 2-point shot, they may have a long night and a long series, Gary.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a step further and say they will have a long night and a long series. The thing about Boston, you make a good point about their physicality. They still have to be careful not to get guys like Horford and Williams into foul trouble, quickly. I mean, yeah, I want to see them kind of play smash mouth defense and see how Golden State reacts to that. But the way that they call fouls in the NBA, I mean, you can see guys like Smart. I mean, you can see just about anybody on Boston picking up a lot of quick fouls because they're doing what they do, and the refs might say, "Look, no, you're impeding their progress," or they'll find some way to call either a ticky-tack foul or just like probably or no foul at all. I mean, call a foul play that they were just clean blocks. You saw that a lot in the Miami series, and I don't know. It's like, and I'm one, John. I hate to really pile on officiating, but there are times when Draymond Green is right. There are times when well, look, Al Horford is right. That it's like that's a foul. I'm trying to think of who else out there reacts a certain way, but yeah, thank you. Yeah. Who'll probably be yelling at the TV tonight as he watches this. Boston, you do what you do, but you still have to be careful because again, you're opening the first 2 games in enemy territory. You just don't know how these refs are gonna react in this game. I would hope that they let them play on the one hand, and on the other hand, I just hope that call the fouls as they see them, call them on both ends. Again, do what you're supposed to do and just, have some kind of consistency. Now, let's talk about the intangibles of this series. I think one of the things I appreciate about this is the histories between the two teams. Again, Golden State had a lot of dark years before Steph Curry and Klay Thompson arrived. So much so that 75 title where they upset the Bullets, it's almost like it didn't happen. Of course, you and I, we remember that painfully. Oh my gosh, because my dad took me to games 1 and 4. And I'm still trying to figure out how they pulled that thing where they got those 2 games, in San Francisco. But hey, that's all water under the bridge.
Remember, the circus was going on in San Francisco, so they had to have the first game in here, and then 2 and 3 were over there. They played in the Cow Palace, the old Cow Palace.
Yep.
And then they came back here for game 4.
Yeah. And that was a game where Dick Gibbs missed a wide open layup that could have given them a game. That could have extended that series and made things different, but no, he did it. That was, well, hey, let's just move on. It's 2022. But the thing about the Warriors, I really do appreciate their history as much as, I love Boston's history. I mean, we have something in common there. But the thing about Golden State's history is I always remember Wilt Chamberlain. Everybody wants to think, well, I'll say people of a certain age will want to remember him with the 76ers and the Lakers and winning his titles and such. But you forget, a lot of those records that he put up, with the Philadelphia / San Francisco Warriors. And it's hard for me not to look at them and think about Wilt Chamberlain, to think about Nate Thurman, guys like that with that, that franchise. And of course, Rick Barry, Jamal Wilkes, Clifford Ray, Al Attles. Gosh, I'm trying to think of
Bill Smith.
Charles Johnson. That's the one I was trying to, that's the one I was trying to remember. I mean, I have a lot of respect for those teams. I mean, let's talk about Chris Mullin too. Not too long ago. But when I look at the Warriors, I still see San Francisco written across there. I still see the city, those uniforms, and you can appreciate that, John, because you're a uniform guy. But the thing about Boston that I really appreciate, besides their history, is that we get to see Nia Long sitting behind that bench every game, rooting for her man coaching the Celtics.
Gary, all I can say on that is I've been watching the game. I haven't really had time to pay attention to the spectators or anybody else who is there. If Miss Long is there, I think that's really great that she's there to support her fiance. That's all I can say, Gary.
John, I've known you for a long time, and I know you don't lie very well. I know you probably think your wife is watching or whatever, but let's just look and keep it to yourself. Just when the camera hits her, if the camera hits her, just say, you gotta love her, because there's so many memorable roles. And the fact that Boston's coach is that's her boo and everything. I just have to appreciate it. It's like he's got game on the court and off the court, and that's all I'm gonna say.
Well, I'm just happy to have the chance to watch the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors in the finals. First time they matched up against each other since 1964, and whatever spectators come to the game, I hope they enjoy themselves, Gary.
Moving on. Because John, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. But I understand the position that you are. Kim is probably standing off screen with a rolling pin in her hand. If people still use rolling pins, maybe a frying pan or something. But anyway, let's move on to those Terps. As you can see, over my shoulder, I'm a proud alum. I've got the diploma up on one wall. Got plenty of T-shirts in my closet, one of which is hanging up behind me. And John, I'm telling you, I really enjoyed watching them really pull out. And when I say pull out a championship, what happened Monday. I knew that when they got up big, that it's like Cornell was just too good to just fade, wilt like that, and they didn't. They made it a game as Maryland was just plain gassed. But in that fourth quarter, they really pulled it together. They played great defense. In fact, that might have been some of the best defense in terms of. You could have mailed it in, but every time they got a turnover, they needed a turnover, they got one. And even after they got within two, after Cornell got within two, they win faceoffs. They got a couple other turnovers, and the turnovers, in the first half are what helped them build the lead. But the biggest thing is, just like last year against Virginia. It seemed like they left it all out on the field, and Virginia pretty much got them at the end. This time they didn't wilt. They completed an 18-0 season. They've only lost, I think, once in like their last 34 games. I might be wrong about the number, but they've only lost one game over the last two seasons.
And that was to Virginia last year in the championship.
Yep. And the thing that I'm always going to appreciate about this team is that it's one thing to beat everybody, and again in that conference with the schedule they have, with Hopkins and all these other teams, Rutgers in particular. I mean, Rutgers was always one of the scarier teams to me, for Maryland, because they're conference teams, and then you're going to see them again. Cornell was scary. I don't know if you saw that game Saturday, but I always thought, it's like, boy, Maryland cannot afford to look past them. They really have to come at it. But I mean, a team that was really, really physically drained, maybe even emotionally drained, still had enough to hang on. And with all due respect to Cornell, major props to them for really making a game. I think that might have been Maryland's hanging in there, their resilience and just holding on, really stuffing those opportunities. What is that term we like to use? you bend, but you don't break. That's one of the things I'm going to appreciate about this. And where I'm from, where we're from, we can appreciate that. That's kind of a regional niche sport that I don't know if anybody else really understands outside the East Coast. I mean, I know they play it in a lot of other areas of the country, but that really means a lot, to Maryland folks, because that's something we grew up on, right?
Hey, I'm with you, Gary. Congrats to Maryland. Played a great game. But also, I got to give credit to Cornell. Cornell lost, but really, I'm just calling the way I see it. They just ran out of time, Gary, because they were coming. And Maryland didn't have much more left in them. I mean, they gave it all they had. The goalie made some tremendous saves. And Cornell in the second, well, not the whole second, but mainly last half of the third quarter and all the fourth quarter, they got the game at the pace they wanted. They want to play a more deliberate pace. Maryland wants to get up and down that field and just take some shots, as many shots as they can at the goal. But Maryland was up 9-3, and Cornell scored the last 4 goals, made it 9-7. And then Maryland ran at 4 corners at the end to just run the timeout. So I'm going to tell you something. The Big Ten next year is going to be tough. You got a Rutgers team that's very good that made the Final Four. Do not sleep on Ohio State. That's a young team. They're up and coming. As I said before, a friend of mine's son plays for them, Bobby Van Buren. They're going to be tough. They're going to be tough, and Maryland has been a dominant team in lacrosse in the Big Ten since they have joined the Big Ten. It's not going to be that easy in the future. I really don't think so, because Rutgers and Ohio State plan on changing that dynamic.
Yeah. But, John, at the same time, between Maryland's recruiting, the depth that they have, we could be right back here next June talking about Maryland, being in a final again, or, at least being in a Final Four. And that's the thing that I think I really appreciate. In years past, I feel like Maryland has squandered some opportunities, in terms of getting there. But after watching Monday, it's like now I appreciate how hard it is to win a championship, no matter how good you are, because that's a grueling game. Saturday they had to deal with something like a 2.5-hour rain delay, lightning delay. Monday they had to deal with heat. Both teams had to deal with heat. That is no easy sport. And the thing that I will recall about that, and I'm going to wrap it up with this, is just by, when I think back on those glory teams of the 70s, some of the good teams they had in the 80s when I was at school there, how heavily they recruited brothers from Baltimore. Because remember, Baltimore turned out a lot of good players for Maryland. And, I just kind of saw that as like a typical legacy game, not just because, Maryland is good. It's just that it just shows what that coach has done in those 10 years and really keeping them at the upper echelon, and now the pinnacle of the sport.
Gary, you said a mouthful. I'm with you. I'm totally with you. And again, congrats to the Maryland Terps. Gary Gray's Maryland Terps. I love the Terps as well, but they're Gary school. Gary, with that, take us home, man.
All right, fellas, let's talk about these finals. The Celtics are my sentimental pick, but my mind says the Warriors in 7. John, what about you?
7-game series, Gary. 7-game series. I'm still sitting on the fence 50-50. 7-game series, very, very, very small. Very, very small edge to the Celtics. Very small.
Yeah.
Again, but I will not be surprised or disappointed if the Golden State Warriors win.
Yeah. This is one of those few series where I'm good with whoever wins. But again, I think Golden State will win. I want Boston to win because, I'm a traditionalist like that. But John Pitt, that's who I want to hear. I think he was a Celtics guy. I want to see if he's still on board.
Yeah, I still think they can pull it off, man. Let's hope they do. I'm gonna treat
Yeah.
you guys at lunch if they do. So
Yeah, because you definitely will treat us to lunch because I know you're gonna put a little money down on it.
already did 2 months ago.
All right. Well, that's a perfect way to exit. People, watch us, look at us on Facebook, tell all your friends, look at us on YouTube. Come on back next week. You know, we'll have some games to talk about. We'll have probably a lot of other sports to talk about. John, good to talk to you as always. I hope everybody had a good holiday and everything, and I'll see you next week.
Hey, Gary, I enjoyed it. I should have said in the beginning of the show, I hope you and John Pitt had great holidays. Salute to all of our veterans and individuals who are still in the military. Happy belated Memorial Day to you. Hey, everybody, have a great week. Watch some sports. Enjoy yourself. Have a good time. Turn that TV on tonight and watch the Celtics and the Warriors. Don't root for either one of them. Just enjoy the game. Enjoy it and have a great time. Y'all take care. We'll see you next week. Have some fun.